Hoje estamos com uma convidada muito especial, a Jean Augustine. Hi Jean, thank you for having us.
I'm very pleased to have an opportunity. I have not been on your radio before, or on your television, or in any of your programs.
So Jean, you immigrated to Canada in 1960. You were already a qualified teacher. How did you feel welcomed in here by that time? Was it easy for you to fit in? And did you feel some kind of discrimination? How was your experience?
When I came in 1960, Toronto was ripe for activism. We had no Charter of Rights and Freedom, that didn't come till 1982. We had no police community relations. We had no committees that dealt with education, nothing that spoke to the education system and the young people. We had no landlord and tenant act. All of those things happened as a result of the activism of people in the community. Asking that certain things be done to make life easier for us and to deal with the question of racism and discrimination. My struggle started right at that point in time, actually, because I had, from the Caribbean, I had completed high school. I had what was called Oxford and Cambridge Overseas School Certificate, A-levels. And when I went to get the documents to sign up for Teachers College, they told me, you have to get grade 13. And I said, no, I have more than grade 13. And so that began my quest for social justice and equity and treatment of people, and having people in the system know about other systems, about other people, about other cultures, about other educational systems.
All right, so that being said, when you got to the Parliament, you felt like we need a Black History Month. And also, could you explain us why is it important politically to have a Black Month history, like to represent this culture?
Well, it was important to me when I got to Parliament that we needed to understand the history of Canada. I was sitting beside people who had come from other cultures and other places. I know Black Canadians who've been here for generations, 6, 7, 8 generations, and yet sometimes they're asked, where are you from? And they say Canada, and then someone, or where were you from? And they said, well, I'm from Canada. I also came through the education system, and I knew that there was nothing in the curriculum, nothing in the textbooks, nothing that was taught to young people, nothing that was taught in schools. And so when the opportunity came, I thought we should have our own Black History Month in Canada. And if we had the federal government pronounce, or the Parliament of Canada pronounce February as Black History Month, then the educators would start writing curriculum. Then the schools would be able to teach. Then in corporate Canada, one can freely talk about one's culture and diversity and inclusion. That in the churches we could begin to teach and talk about the history of Black people in Canada. And it's not just Black history in February and that's it. It is the history, it's Canada's history. It's putting all the pieces together. The history of Black Canadians, our Aboriginal past, or the history of Aboriginal people, and connecting all of this, who came after what immigration rules and practices, who came from Europe, what the situation. We need to know all of this if we are to live and work and be a truly, truly inclusive society.
So, and what's your vision on society's evolution concerning Black cultures? I mean, what's different now from the way it was back in 1960?
Well, it's really different. It's different, first of all, it's different in terms of numbers. When I came in 1960 and I saw another Black person, I said, hi, my name is Jean. This is my phone number, what's yours? It's different in terms of our ability to not only have we increased in numbers, but when you look at the world of, as I was saying earlier, the world of entertainment, you can get black films, you can get films about, you know, just about every issue. You see the school boards and the curriculum is now kind of rich with the inclusion of Black Canadian history. So there is great progress we've made. We're not there yet, but at the same time, we've made some progress. And I think with the coming of people from all over the world to Canada, and Toronto is a real cosmopolitan city, that we see also the dynamism of all the cultures and the recognition of all the cultures.
So, Jean, we all that live in Canada, we all know about the activist movement Black Lives Matter. So it's a little bit controversial. I would like to know what's your opinion and what's your vision on these movement causes, and also about the way they manifestate.
I don't think it's controversial. I think it's a recognition that there are issues out there, and there are young people who are taking on these issues and bringing those issues to the fore. I remember in the early days, in the 60s, the 70s, we were marching. When there was a shooting by the police, we marched when we wanted certain things to take place in the school system. When there were books in the system that were racist and had a lot of information that was demeaning, we marched. We set out. We didn't call ourselves by any name. It was just the community mobilized. But I think what Black Lives Matter is doing right now is putting to the fore those issues that we still have to deal with. And it's being done by young people, because I think it's important that young people take up the mantle if we are to work towards this true equity and equality and the recognition of diversity and an equal place in the society for each and every one of us, regardless of race or color, of ethnicity or whatever, or status, sexual and otherwise. I think it's important for us to see young people taking up that mantle.
All right, Jen. So what do you think it's the posture that you advise the young generations to have?
I think the generation today is operating in a whole different world than I operated back then. I turned 80 years old. All of the new technology, you know, whether it's the Instagram or the Facebook or the Twitter or the what, that's within the last, 10, 12 years. Very, very new. And the young people have really taken to that. I think people in my age group are still grappling with all of the way that you could message and you can use the technology. And so it's easier for the young people to mobilize, you know, put something out there and you get, in my day, you had to make the phone calls, or you had to drive to the person's home, or you had to make signs, you know, and put up on the posts, telephone posts around the city if you really wanted something to happen. So there are different ways of mobilizing, different ways of doing the advocacy, different ways of making sure that the system and those in power, those who are making decisions, get the message that the community would like to send.
All right. So, Jean, you have done so much already along your career, but you are still involved with our communities. You are still doing a lot of things. For example, this Jean Augustine Center of Young Women's Empowerment, you are still really active.
Well, having had a full life of service in the field of education, and I came through the ranks from classroom teaching, vice principal, principal, supervisory, and at the same time, heading the Metro Toronto Housing Authority, which housed people at the time, renegade to income. Very difficult job that was. And having been in the Parliament of Canada, and then as the Fairness Commissioner for the province of Ontario, I think I had a long and full career. So now, having retired, I look back at some of the things that have happened to me in the society and be always very thankful. There's a park, Etobicoke Lakeshore, just along, that's named after me, the Jean Augustine Park. There is a school, an academic, in an academic setting for girls at the Toronto District School Board. There is a huge state-of-the-art secondary school in Mississauga. And this center here, which is for young girls, youth in the area of Etobicoke Lakeshore, and the opportunity that there is to motivate, to give opportunities for young girls so that after school they have a safe place to come.
All right, so one final question. So much has been done until now. What would you say there's still left to do? Like the legacy, the young generations, what should they continue doing to continue your work also?
Well, there is still left to do because I think Canada is a work in progress. Canada is not finished yet, as someone once said. And so we continue to build, and we have to continue to build simply because when we look to see what has happened in the United States, the kind of racist and anti-religious, all kinds of stuff that have come right from the very top, from the presidents, that we as neighbor, we have to continue to be the kind of people we are and to build the kind of society we are. And so what I would want to see of young people is that they continue to recognize who we are as Canadians, the values that we hold as Canadians, and make sure that Canada understands the direction in which we all need to go.